The Existential Burden of Bartholomew Bingley by Edwin Campbell. Inspired by Joke. I don't need therapy, I just need everyone to stop being stupid. Bartholomew Bingley adjusted his spectacles, peered over the rim of his exceptionally strong herbal tea, and sighed. It wasn't a gentle sigh. It was a sigh heavy with the accumulated weight of humanity's collective foolishness, a sound that could curdle milk and wilt perfectly good petunias. Bartholomew didn't believe in therapy. He believed in one simple, unshakable truth. He didn't need therapy, he just needed everyone to stop being stupid. His daily life was a relentless assault on his highly rational, deeply ordered mind. Take his morning commute, for instance. Every single day, without fail, someone would attempt to board the train before allowing passengers to disembark. It's a two-step process, people, he'd mutter under his breath, clenching his jaw. Disembark, then embark. It's not quantum physics. Then there was his office. He worked as a senior archivist, a job that required meticulous organization and a keen eye for detail. His colleague, Brenda from accounting, routinely tried to file tax returns under miscellaneous. Brenda, he'd explain, his voice strained with suppressed exasperation. Taxes are not miscellaneous. They are by definition quite specific. Brenda would just blink at him, her eyes as vacant as an unfiled folder. Bartholomew's evenings offered no respite. His upstairs neighbors, the Higgins family, had recently decided that their pet parrot, Percy, needed to learn the complete discography of a particularly tuneless experimental jazz band. The squawking, off-key improvisations echoed through his apartment, a cacophony of sheer sonic stupidity. He'd tried reasoning, he'd tried polite suggestions, he'd even tried making elaborate flowcharts to illustrate the logical fallacies of their actions. Nothing worked. It was as if the world was engaged in a grand, coordinated effort to defy common sense, purely for Bartholomew's personal torment. His only friend, a retired philosophy professor named Alistair, often urged him to seek professional guidance. "Therapy, Alistair?" Bartholomew would scoff, gesturing wildly with his teacup, sloshing chamomile over his meticulously ironed shirt. What exactly would a therapist do? Tell me to process my feelings about the fact that people can't grasp the concept of left and right in a parking lot. I don't need to process it, Alistair. I need them to learn it. Alistair would merely sip his own tea, a knowing twinkle in his eye. Perhaps the therapy isn't for them, Bartholomew. Nonsense, Bartholomew would retort. The problem isn't my perception of stupidity, Alistair. The problem is the objective existence of it. I'm merely the unfortunate recipient of its widespread manifestation. One particularly egregious Tuesday, the universe seemed to conspire against him with unprecedented vigor. His toast burnt because his toaster, despite a clear light setting, seemed intent on incineration. His train was delayed because someone thought standing in the yellow line was a suggestion, not a safety warning. Brenda from accounting submitted a budget where the totals didn't add up because she preferred round numbers. And Percy the parrot launched into a particularly jarring rendition of free jazz flounder. Bartholomew felt a vein throb in his temple. He retreated to his apartment, the cacophony of Percy's jazz echoing in his ears. He curled up on his sofa, clutching a cushion. He just couldn't. The sheer, overwhelming stupidity of it all was too much. He closed his eyes, desperately trying to conjure a world where logic prevailed, where instructions were followed, where parrots sang pleasant melodies. But all he saw was a mental montage of human folly. Then, a sudden, piercing silence. Percy's jazz ceased. Bartholomew opened one eye. The Higgins apartment above was quiet, blissfully, miraculously quiet. He cautiously approached his window, and there, perched on the Higgins balcony railing, was Percy, not singing jazz, but rather attempting to mimic the gentle cooing of a nearby pigeon. He was actually quite good at it. It wasn't perfect, but it was trying. Bartholomew frowned. This was unexpected. He looked out onto the street. The traffic, usually a tangled mess of honking frustration, seemed to be flowing smoothly. Drivers were actually using their indicators. People were patiently waiting their turn. He raced to his desk and pulled up the news. The headline read, "Global Common Sense Initiative Launched. Small Steps, Big Changes." Apparently, a worldwide campaign had begun, encouraging mindfulness, patience, and adherence to basic instructions. It was being spearheaded by a renowned behavioral psychologist who had, coincidentally, studied under Professor Alistair. Bartholomew felt a peculiar sensation, not relief, exactly, more like bewilderment. Was it possible? Had everyone stopped being stupid? Or at least gotten significantly less stupid? Over the next few days, the changes were palpable. His toast browned perfectly, commutes were serene. Brenda from accounting started using a calculator. Percy the parrot began practicing harmonious bird calls. The world, slowly but surely, was becoming less idiotic. Bartholomew felt odd. His daily source of indignation was dwindling. His sighs were becoming less frequent, less profound. He found himself with an abundance of unused mental energy. He actually finished the Yeti scarf. He added 2 more stanzas to his lawn bowling poem. He even polished his other shoe. One evening, Alistair came over for tea. The apartment was peaceful, no blaring jazz, no distant sirens of vehicular stupidity. "So, Bartholomew," Alistair said, a twinkle in his eye, "how are things now that everyone has, shall we say, optimized their cognitive functions?" Bartholomew took a thoughtful sip of his tea. "It's quieter, Alistair, efficient, almost boring. I find myself with a surplus of suppressed frustration and nowhere to direct it." He sighed, but it was a much lighter sigh this time, a sigh of existential boredom. Alistair smiled. "You see, Bartholomew, perhaps the problem wasn't everyone else's stupidity after all. Perhaps the problem was your reliance on it. It gave you purpose, didn't it? A righteous indignation that fueled your very existence." Bartholomew stared into his teacup. Alistair had a point. Without the constant assault of idiocy, he felt adrift. He missed the thrill of correctly predicting someone's illogical maneuver. He missed the satisfaction of mentally correcting Brenda's arithmetic. "So," Bartholomew mused, looking at Alistair, "you're saying I might actually need therapy now?" Alistair chuckled. "Well, you certainly have a lot of new emotional space to explore, perhaps for processing the trauma of a world that isn't constantly infuriating you." Bartholomew sighed again, a sigh of contemplation rather than exasperation. The world had stopped being stupid. And now, for the first time, Bartholomew Bingley genuinely considered that perhaps, just perhaps, it was he who needed to figure out what to do with all that newfound peace. The burden of everyone else's stupidity had been lifted, only to reveal the deeper, more complex burden of self-discovery.